Welcome back, my fellow good girls. All right. Oh my God, I almost just fell. Hi, my fellow good girls. Welcome to the Good Girls Book Club. If you're new here, I'm RJ, and if you're old here, welcome back. It's good to see you again. I hope you stayed smutty. Before we get into it, excuse my absolutely heinous background. I am redoing my entire room, and I have 6 bookshelves just on the floor, actually right below you, that I need to build, and I just don't really want to do that right now. So instead, you get this mess. So I read 11 books in the month of March. I DNF'd 2 of them, which if you know anything about me is damn near impossible for me to do. But those books really just rubbed me the wrong way. And we'll get to those at a later date. Out of the 11 books that I read, I believe all of them except for Fumbled are available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you're out here trying to save some coin, like your girl, because I'm broke, this will be the video for you. So out of the 9 books that I actually finished reading, 4 of those books are more than 4 out of 5 stars. So I had a really good month of March because I am a really tough grader. 4 out of 5 stars is damn near perfection. 5 out of 5 stars means that I loved every minute of the book. 5 out of 5 stars. It's hard to achieve in my book. So the first book that I read in the month of March was Fumbled by Alexa Martin. This is a accidental pregnancy, second chance sports romance. Basically, the main character, when she was in high school, gets pregnant with her then boyfriend, TK, and instead of telling him that she's pregnant, she just kind of vanishes like a thief into the night. She doesn't contact him again. She won't return any of his calls. She's just gone. About 10 years later, she is working as a server in a kind of risque club, if you know what I'm saying. And who else comes in besides TK and all of his teammates? Because TK is now a really famous, really rich football player, by the way. It's quick to read, it's easy, it's sweet. TK is giving daddy DILF status, which we all know is very important to me. And overall, I just really enjoyed it. All right, moving on. So the next book that I read in March was Marrow by Trisha Wolfe and Bryn Weaver. I don't know why I can't say Trisha Wolfe. I can't do it. I just can't do it. This book is a dark romance about 2 serial killers who are professors at the same university. Basically, our main character has a really dark and sordid past that has led to her becoming a serial killer, and our main love interest, Jack, he's just a sociopath. He just likes to cut people open to see what they look like inside. And you know what? We like a man who goes after what he wants, ladies. That's what we want in life. I thought that the book was really well written. If there's anything that Bryn Weaver knows how to do, it's write a beautifully written book. That if you like dark romance, if you like strong female characters, and if you like the female character being a serial killer, kind of like the Mindfuck series, you will like this book. The next book that I read in March was The 60-40 Rule by Ellie Wilde. This book is an enemies to lovers rom-com. If you are into simp behavior, if you are into male characters who are so obsessed with the female characters that they can't even form a coherent sentence when she walks through the door, you'll like this book. Basically, our main character has been working as an assistant at an interior design firm for, I believe, 5 years. She desperately wants to become a designer, but 3 years ago, she got in trouble for cussing out one of the main investors in a project that she was working on. As you can imagine, our main love interest was one of those investors. She didn't cuss him out. She was actually protecting him, but she assumes that he was the one that ratted her out, and so she hates him. I found this book to be really delightful, actually. I thought that the main love interest was super sweet. I love a simp, like a man who is so desperate for the main character that he can't even function. That is my shit right there. So I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Not because I didn't like it, I actually really, really did. But when I was reading the Kindle version, there were quite a few typos. Like the word smile was used probably 50 times throughout the book, but it was never actually written. It was just glossed over. And I know that that's kind of nitpicky of me, but it really kind of pulls me out of the book. If you can get over typos and you just want to read a really sweet enemies to lovers, he fell first book, The 60-40 Rule is a really great read. I promise. So the next book that I read in March was Read Me by Lauren Connolly. I believe it is in the Forget the Past series. I think it's number 2. I just read this one as a standalone. I didn't read the first one and it didn't impact my reading of the book at all. I really liked this book. I love books where the main character is like super nerdy, kind of quirky, kind of weird, but in like a really authentic way, not in a I'm not like other girls way. Like our main character in this book, she is a girl's girl, and I love that for her. So the premise is super simple. Basically, our main character works as a librarian, and there is a super hot, mysterious, tatted up guy that comes in like twice a week, and he never lets her help him with anything. All she wants to do is help him restock his books or help him proofread or whatever, and he refuses. What we find out when we switch to his POV is that he's actually super obsessed with her and just wants to prove to her that he can like do it on his own and he doesn't need her help. The only problem is that our main love interest, he has kind of a really, really big secret. Like some of the other books that I read, this book was super sweet. It was super quick to get through. And I just really loved the main character so much. She was genuinely funny. There were times in the book where I was actually like laughing out loud. And the main guy was giving simp behavior. And as previously stated, if there's one thing that I love, it's a simp. I gave Read Me 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. And the main character just made the whole thing so worth it to read. If you like sweet romances, if you like opposites attract kind of romances, you'll like Read Me. The next book that I read was literally so good. And I am mad at myself that I waited so long to read it. I had so many people in my comment sections telling me to read it, and I just was putting it off because I'm a stubborn. The book is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. Now, this will be one of those books where I tell you to check your trigger warnings. Please. Please don't not check your trigger warnings. Read this book, get mad at me, and then cuss me out. This book is a dark romance. The two main characters end up getting kidnapped. Some pretty awful things happen while they're in captivity. And so if you cannot read that, this will not be the book for you. Basically, our main character hates her sister's fiance. Yeah, the fiance is the other main character. They hate each other. They've hated each other since high school. They never get along. They've been playing pranks on each other since they were teenagers. But one night she gets stranded at a bar and has to call him to come pick her up. Basically, when he goes to pick her up, they get kidnapped. They're held in captivity for about 3 weeks, and they're forced to do some pretty awful things to each other. But while they're down there, they realize that not only do they not hate each other, but they're kind of the only thing that each other has. I will definitely say that if you can't read dark romances, if you can't read captivity, serial killers, some of the awful things that are in that book, please don't read this book. Well, I really loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I love dark romance, and I don't have that many trigger warnings that could turn me off from a book. But if you do, respect your boundaries and don't read it. But if you're like me and you can stomach just about anything, I promise you this book is worth the read. Solid 5 out of 5 stars, guys. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to tell you guys about is literally my favorite book that I've read so far this year, besides maybe the Legacy of God series, but the two are not comparable. And it is The Right Move by Liz Tomford. Oh my God, this book was so goddamn good. I read Mile High, which is from the same series, and when I liked it, I think I only gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It just wasn't my favorite. This sequel, oh my God, Ryan Shay could do disgusting, depraved things to me, and I would say thank you afterwards. I'm not even kidding. Our main character, Indy, is a girl's girl to her core, and like I said, I love a girl's girl. She is delightful, she's funny, she's smart, she's very caring, and she has a really shitty ex. Basically, when she comes home one day, her ex is in their bed, sleeping with another girl. And instead of inflicting serious bodily harm to him like she should have, and like I would have, she leaves everything that she's ever known and loved behind. Her best friend's brother is a really rich, really famous basketball player, and he happens to have a free guest room. This book changed my life. I swear to God, I will never be the same after reading this book. If you like Grump Sunshine books, if you like best friend's brother books, rich billionaire, sports romance books, they were roommates books, forced proximity, one bed, you'll love this book. This book has all of the things, and it does it so well. I would recommend The Right Move to anyone. It was so good. So the next book that I read in March was the only book that I didn't really enjoy. It was Where We Left Off by Sapphire Hale. I don't even know how to describe this book. So one of the reasons that I didn't like the book, if I'm being honest with you, is because it takes place in high school. I'm not a big fan of reading high school romances, especially ones that have smut in them. It just makes me a little uncomfortable. So our main character is 17 and our love interest is 19. Basically, they have kind of a complicated history. They were together when they were like 14 and 15 for a very short period of time, and then he was forced to move away. A couple years later, our main character's mom gets a new boyfriend. And of course, the new boyfriend is the dad of her ex-boyfriend. I would say that this book was okay. The reason that they broke up in high school, while valid, just didn't really sit well with me. I can't necessarily fault the main character for the way that she handled what happened. However, I'm just not a big fan of breakups that happened because the two main characters couldn't just talk to each other. I actually don't know why I didn't DNF this book. I probably should have. Yikes. Next book that I read in March was Right Man, Right Time by Megan Quinn. I'm kind of on the fence about Megan Quinn's books half the time. I acknowledge that she's a funny writer, but every time I read one of her books, I just kind of feel like something's missing. And I still feel that way about this one. I enjoyed it. It was a fake dating, age gap, hockey romance. And if you know anything about me, those are like my top 3 tropes. But I don't know. There was something about the chemistry of the characters that I just really couldn't get into. I really liked our main character. She was super funny. She was super sex positive. But I just couldn't get behind them together at certain points. I want my male main characters to be emotionally intelligent. I want them to know what they feel, why they feel it. And this main character, he kind of just like lacked that at times. And truthfully, because it's an age gap romance, he was too old to not have a handle on his feelings. Now, the spice in this book was 24 karat magic. And because of that, I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you like hockey romances, if you like age gaps, and if you like main female characters who are super sex positive, you'll probably enjoy this book. It probably won't be the best one that you've ever read, but it'll still be pretty good. Okay, guys, so my last book of March was Restore Me by J.L. Seegers. This book was so good. Oh my God. This is another 5 out of 5 star read. I would recommend this book to anyone and everybody. It was fantastic from beginning to end. Basically, it's an enemies to lovers between our main character and her late husband's best friend. If you guys like true enemies to lovers, like the bickering, the tension, they hate each other, they can't stand to be in the same room together, this is giving that. However, what we find out when we switch to his POV is that he bullies her because he's been in love with her this entire time. Now, I know that makes him sound unlikable because it is his best friend's wife, but I promise that there's a twist to it that makes it feel okay to read. There were parts of this book, there were times when I was reading this book that I was like, I shouldn't want them to get together, but you did. Our main male character, Dom, was literally so delicious. He was delicious. He was giving just deliciousness from page 1. He was grumpy, he was an asshole, and I loved every single minute of it. The things I would let that man do to me. I would peel off my left nipple for one night with Dom. Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. Like I said, guys, 5 out of 5 star read. I would recommend Restore Me to anybody. All right, on to the books that I DNF'd. So I DNF'd 2 books in the month of March. The first book that I DNF'd was Brightly Burning Bridges by Ivy Wilde. That title is such a tongue twister. So when I was younger, I used to hate bully romances. When I was younger, I was like, I don't even understand how she could fall in love with somebody that's been so awful to her for so many years for no reason. And then your girl got older. She took a couple laps around the block, visited the streets a couple times, met some men that weren't very nice to her. And now I can totally understand why someone would be with somebody that treats them like absolute dog shit. Those are my own personal issues that I should probably work through in therapy. But all of that to be said, that I actually really enjoy bully romances. I can understand why you wouldn't, And if you don't like boy romances, don't read this book. Don't read this book anyway, because I didn't really like it at all. Now, I won't recommend the book to you because, like I said, I DNF'd it. But if you are going to read it, go into it knowing that it's a bully romance. Go into it knowing that he is horrible to her. The reason that I ended up DNFing the book was because it was the dialogue was kind of cringy. It was kind of awkward. I thought the writing was okay, but whenever the characters spoke, I just kind of like, ugh. I can't give it a rating because I DNF'd it. And so if you want to read it, you take full responsibility for that. The last book that I ended up DNFing in March was Out of the Ashes by Anne Malcolm. So this book is a motorcycle gang romance, and I love motorcycle gang romances. I'm sure I have like 10 visible right now. Normally when I read motorcycle romances, I can leave my feminism at the door. Red flags preferred. But the main character, he literally called her a bitch every single sentence. Whether or not he was talking to her, he was in his own internal monologues, he was calling her a bitch, he was calling her a bitch. It was really hard for me to read. And that was the only reason that I DNF'd the book. If you can get through that, I'm sure it's actually a really great book. It is a single mom romance, motorcycle club romance. He's dark and mysterious and really rough. And so if you can deal with him literally calling her a bitch 24/7, I can guarantee you'll probably like this book. I couldn't do it. It was too much for me. All right, guys, so that is my wrap up on the 11 books that I read in the month of March. Comment down below with some of the books that you read and whether or not I should read them, because I am currently rebuilding my TBR. I somehow haven't purchased a book in like 3 months. And that tax return just came in, so I'm trying to drop some coin on some books. So if you guys have recommendations, always drop them down below. As always, if you guys want to read any of the books that I recommended, they are all in my Amazon storefront, which I have linked down below. If you want to follow me on any and all social medias, those are also down in the description. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Stay smutty, friends. I don't even need to do that because I'm recording on my phone with a microphone, but I just really like when videos start off like that, you know? Oh, and naturally it would just start downpouring.